Structure of reality. If you have ever read Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson, you might refer to that work on numerous occasions throughout the reading of this book. As you sift through the layers of reality, I present to you in chapter 1 of that great work, which is entitled The Thinker and the Prover. Wilson suggests from his own theoretical influences that both the thinker and the prover can have it their way, the only difference between the two being that the prover has to work harder in order to satisfy the dilemma of proving something, even if it is based on fallacious thinking. The thinker has the freedom to wander wherever he or she wants in the mind, the mechanism for spirit to experience a physical body. In this book, however, I make it simpler. There are two aspects of yourself, the thinker and the knower. In this case, the thinker uses the brain to analyze a present situation, and the knower feels what the right response would be based on a sensation and consciousness. Both work, but the knower has a direct advantage over the thinker. The knower doesn't have to think. Can this really be? Does ultimate objective reality transcend thought? It all comes down to knowing what reality is. What do I mean by reality? Based on the writing preceding this section, I suggested that reality is a panorama of infinite possibilities, projecting out from a center of pure consciousness and love. Consciousness and love create realities, and they do it on different vibrational frequencies in many dimensions. If I were to ask you to imagine a beautiful red rose, you could do it. But where would that rose be? You are the wizard who conjures up the rose. But if I opened up your brain, all I would see is a network of tiny neurons carrying electromagnetic currents. These currents merge at nexus points, which are really gaps between neurons called synapses. In the synapse, a release of chemicals takes place. We can see a variety of chemicals, but there are two predominant ones: gamma aminobutyric acid and glutamate. The former depresses and the latter stimulates. The electrical activity is due to an electrical action potential, which is basically the exchange of ions across cell membranes. In your brain, however, there is no rose. Your brain was merely a mechanism for creating the reality of the rose, which actually existed in your consciousness, soul, spirit. The same applies for the outside world. When you look at an orange flower, an invisible electromagnetic beam, photons, hits your eyes, causing your retinas to produce chemical reactions, which in turn send electrical current to your brain. Your brain interprets those signals as a picture of an orange flower. But those signals are not orange in color, and they do not represent a flower. The experience of the flower as a whole occurs in your consciousness. When you hear a sound, your eardrums vibrate, and this causes the cilia in your ear canal to send electrical impulses to your brain. Your brain interprets those signals as sound. But those signals do not make a sound. The experience of sound occurs in your consciousness. In the outside world, the only reality is energy vibrating at different frequencies and changing form. The experience of a three-dimensional holographic reality, complete with sounds, colors, pictures, smells, and textures, takes place in only one place, and that is your spirit, that which I refer to as consciousness. Although you experience a continuous stream of information, reality is actually flickering on and off. This is happening at such a tremendous rate, however, that you cannot experience that resonance. You don't experience the world as vibrations. You experience it as a solid physical reality. Let me explain further by calling to attention an experiment done in the early part of the 20th century, where scientists shot beams of particles through slits in a metal frame. They wanted to understand the nature of matter, and so the particles, electrons, in this experiment represented microscopic bundles of matter. When the scientists projected beams of electrons through two upright slits in the metal frame, the waves interfered with each other after passing through the slits, creating columns of imprints on a fluorescent screen. The spots on the screen where the waves from the two slits arrived in phase showed up bright, and the spots where the waves arrived out of phase and canceled each other out showed up dark. Hence, there was a pattern of alternating light and dark spots, revealing a wave interference pattern. The scientists then decided to make the beam very weak and only shoot one electron at a time. What happened was unexpected, as the single electron passed through both slits at the same time as a wave function and interfered with itself when re-emerging, causing the same interference pattern on the fluorescent screen. The scientists were baffled, so they placed a measuring device by the slits to see how the single electron could possibly go through both slits at the same time. When they observed this, the electron behaved like a particle, going through only one slit and not causing an interference pattern on the screen. The conclusion was made. The very act of perceiving the electron turned it from a field of possibilities, a wave, into a singularity, a particle. Consciousness, the measuring device, created the reality. Similarly, when physicists studied the atom, they found a nucleus orbited by a field of electrons. When they tried to pinpoint individual electrons, the task became impossible because the electrons only existed as a field of wave functions. Both the momentum and position of a single electron could not be calculated at the same time. The areas hypothesized to reveal the electron only existed as a probability field. It was like the electrons existed in this dimension, but also other dimensions as well, because they would pop in and out of the electromagnetic field. When the scientists turned their microscopes deeper into the field of electrons, they found nothing. Nothing. No, they did not find nothing. They found a field of infinite possibilities that looked like nothing because it was really everything. So what is matter? Matter is an infinite field of consciousness condensed down into a singularity. When this field is open, matter acts like a wave, but when it is condensed down into a singularity, it is a particle. Matter is a particle and a wave simultaneously. When you are viewing it, matter appears as a particle, but when you aren't, it appears as a wave function. Hence, the paradox of quantum mechanics. So you see, you really are a God. Your consciousness is your divine power. Everything you give consciousness to becomes a reality. To view this topic from a higher perspective, you must think of everything in terms of energy. Everything is energy. The cause of everything is energy. Everything that you see around you is a condensed vibration of energy. God is not a person. It is an infinite field of spiritual energy. Energy vibrates. So the lower the frequency of vibration, the more it appears as a solid. When something vibrates at a higher and higher frequencies, it appears as light, or it is invisible to you. The physical manifest world that you see with your eyes is actually only a fraction of what really exists, because you cannot see vibrational frequencies existing above and below the spectrum of the rainbow. Your eyes cannot pick up infrared or ultraviolet color frequencies, although these emanations are evident to many animals and insects. In pure consciousness, objective reality, only love and light can subsist. If light is what you see, then love is what you feel. Love is the force which sustains all of life. Everything was created using love. It is the most powerful force there is. It is through the infinite matrix of love that information is brought out through light and tiny light-encoded filaments. When our brains receive information, it is through light, and the encoded filaments are sent through a decoding process performed by neurons, our brain cells that process and transmit electrical and chemical signaling. Together they form a network which structures our entire reality based on how we decode the light that enters our eyes. The reality that most people perceive is a highly condensed version of the ultimate reality that exists around them all the time. Through belief systems, people create for themselves a critical factoring unit that acts as a filtration device for what they perceive. The five sense realm is the reality that most people on earth are stuck in now. They only believe what they can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. In other words, they are trapped in their own bodies. They are limited to the frequencies of light and sound that their bodies can handle. Since everything vibrates, that means our bodies vibrate. If a frequency spectrum of sound and color is outside the range that our bodies can detect, then we believe that it does not exist. Many people do not believe in ghosts because they cannot see them. But there are realities beyond physical sight. Electromagnetic plasma light entities vibrate at frequencies above the spectrum of the rainbow. So that is why we cannot see them. Millions of people will encounter ghosts, poltergeists, and manifestations of disincarnate entities every year. But those experiences will remain a mystery until the collective consciousness of our planet expands its mode of perception. Now, what follows is the 7 planes of existence. Much like the Kabbalah, the higher we move up the ladder of existence, the further we travel away from human experience and the closer we come to the source from which all other planes emanate. We have a body on each of these planes which acts as a vehicle for our consciousness, soul. The 7 planes are listed henceforth. The physical plane. The first plane is dense and solid. It is the material world and all things measured by the material senses. The matrix anchors itself into this plane, as it is the plane of space-time, solid form, and causality. Our body on this plane is the physical body. The etheric plane. The second plane is an energetic spiritual template upon which the physical world is based. The etheric realm is the blueprint for the physical world. Our body on this plane is the etheric body. It is a blue-gray mist emanating 1 to 2 inches from our physical body. The astral plane. The third plane is the realm of idealized form. The astral plane is the idealized template for the etheric plane, as the etheric plane is the mold for the physical plane. Astral forms are affected by energy, intention, and emotions, and the astral plane is the first realm of spirits, from benevolent spirit guides to ghosts to disincarnate entity. It is also the dream plane and the collective consciousness of our planet. Our body on this plane is the astral body, the vehicle we use for astral projection and remote viewing. The emotional plane. The fourth plane is somewhat of an extension of the astral plane and is where our highest emotions reside, such as love. The ascended masters can aid us on our journey from this realm. Our body on this plane is our emotional body, and it emanates about 2 to 3 inches from our physical body. The mental plane. The fifth plane is the realm of ideas, thoughts, and concepts. In order to create something, one must first conceive a thought and then give it emotional energy so that it can manifest form on the astral plane and then eventually onto the etheric and physical planes. The mental plane is the realm of information, abstract concepts, and communication. Our body on this level is our mental body, which radiates 5 inches to 3 feet from our physical body. The psychic plane. The 6th plane is the connective plane where seers and psychics have visions of the past and future. When you remember something or when you project an image, you are enacting your consciousness on the psychic plane. Our body on this plane is the crystal light body, which is activated by the Merkaba vehicle, the 3-dimensional star tetrahedron of light that is contained within our electronic circle. It interpenetrates all other bodies. The divine plane. The 7th plane is the home of our divine monad, our connection to prime creator, to source. This field of energy surrounds the other 6 planes and is the container and source for all of creation. This is where the higher self resides. Our body in this plane is the nirvanic body, which emanates 3 to 5 feet from our physical body on the highest octave of the 12th dimension. According to metaphysicians, each of the 7 planes can be subdivided into 7 dimensions, so together, 49 planes of existence are manifested through the will of Prime Creator. Each plane has one of each of the aspects: physical, etheric, astro-emotional, mental, psychic, and divine. Since we can use these abilities and call down this energy from the 3rd dimension, the holographic universe, and the dimensions of light. Our universe is a hologram. It is not real in the sense that everyone thinks it is real, that being a solid structure. Rather, our universe is malleable and manifest on many dimensional levels outside the range our bodies can detect. This particular hologram contains 11 creational densities, or 11 frequency spectrums of sound and color, with each spectrum containing 11 additional levels. In this model of creation, the frequency of light and its counterpart, sound, are recorded on different density levels. This does not directly relate to the 49 planes of existence discussed above, as it is more concrete, although it fits the overall scale. Color relates to the wavelength of a light. So the spectrum of the rainbow is just light vibrating along a certain spectrum, radiating from blue to red. This is only what we can see from 3rd density, our physical universe. However, since there are an infinite number of colors ranging from black to white, black is the absence of color, and white is all the colors combined. So if you want to picture creation, just imagine an infinite field of love that perpetuates a color and sound frequency from 0 to infinity. 0 is the gap, the point of creation, and 3rd density is the first vibrational level of existence since it carries the lowest vibration. The 11 creational densities range from 3rd density, which is the observable universe, physical plane, to 13th density, which is the beginning of the cosmic center of consciousness, divine plane. This density is never ending and stretches on to infinity. 3rd density is our perspective of creation, although it is severely limited. There is another dimensional model that is very much relative to and intertwined with the previous models, and it was given to us by the Pleiadians, the Pleiadians. This is the model of manifestation of 9 dimensions, where dimension is not a synonym of frequency. Instead, dimension in this sense refers to a realm of awareness and manifestation. The creational densities model of the universe shows us layers of sound and color vibrating at higher and higher frequencies. This model is the basic understanding of the composition of the universe and is the concrete version of the 7 planes model. The model of manifestation of 9 dimensions is the most practical for our understanding, since it can be considered as the process by which thought manifests from higher dimensions down to lower dimensions, 9th dimension down into the 1st dimensions according to the Palladians. Thought is the origin of everything. In the Bible, it says, "In the beginning was the Word." However, this is a mistranslation among numerous mistranslations. In the beginning was thought. That is why understanding the model is crucial in manifesting whatever reality you desire. I will explain this model from the perspective of Earth, as to make it easier to understand. The first of Earth's 9 dimensions of consciousness is the iron core crystal at the center of the planet. This center is the most solid of the 9 dimensions and is like an anchoring point for the higher dimensions. This iron core at the center of the planet radiates out electromagnetic waves, which are then triggered by electromagnetic frequency waves in the atmosphere that are the result of higher light frequencies traveling from the sun and passing through the Earth's atmosphere. We are connected to the iron core crystal at the center of the Earth because there is iron in our blood, which pulses to the rhythm of the iron core. The iron molecules in the iron core crystal pulse because as the Earth spins on its axis, it vibrates to all the planets, moons, and asteroids in our solar system, including the sun itself. All these bodies in turn vibrate due to the forward motion of the galaxy as it spins around the central black hole. The entire galaxy pulses to the quasars, supernovas, and other stars and planets in the galaxy, and also to the sister galaxy of Andromeda. When the Earth spins to the tune of the solar system, it creates movement, which in turn transforms particles into waves, contriving moving energy. This is how the iron core crystal at the center of Earth pulses out electromagnetic radiation. It is because of the energy produced by the spin of the Earth on its axis and the movement of its revolution around the sun. Just as the iron core crystal is the one-dimensional point of Earth, the black hole at the center of the galaxy is the one-dimensional point of the Milky Way. The frequency of vibration determines the qualities of matter, light, and consciousness. And as the pulses of the Earth iron core radiate out into the universe, they become more and more refined until they turn into light in the center of the galaxy. The first dimension, likewise, is the source of gravity. It holds the Earth and everyone on it together. And as it reaches the higher dimensions, it becomes less and less noticeable. In other words, weaker. Just as on the Earth, all one-dimensional centers in the universe are gravity, and this force holds all the dimensions together on the vertical plane of ascending dimensions, rising out of the black hole in the center of each galaxy. The second dimension is the realm of the elementals. The minerals, radioactive materials, viruses, and bacteria are all forms of intelligence subsisting between the iron core crystal at the center of the Earth and the surface of the planet. This area is known as the telluric realm, and it is the source for surface life. These minerals exist in the third dimension, but have as their foundation a dense, powerful, vibrating structure rooted in the second dimension. Trillions of workers maintain the structure of life and provide sources of nourishment for higher intelligence such as animal and human life, forms of consciousness, who owe their very existence to the second dimensional life forms that form roots to the tree of life. Vitamins and minerals keep our physical bodies in good working condition, while crystals like opal, pearl, amethyst, topaz, and sapphire work to heal and harmonize our energetic bodies. A Roman poet named Ovid wrote a series of stories called the Metamorphoses. And in one of these stories, the goddess Themis rises out of the water and tells a man and a woman, Deucalion and Pyrrha, to throw their mother's bones behind them in order to populate the earth with children. The two realize that the earth is their mother and the source of all life. So they throw the stones behind them, and the stones grow and become people. Ovid's tale is a myth, but it is also grounded in truth. The earth is our mother, and the telluric realm is the source of life. Geomancy is an ancient art form dealing with the divination of nature spirits to harvest the Earth's energy grid lines, and it was practiced many times over by the ancient peoples. They learned how to meditate and align with the consciousness of the second dimension, thereby gaining a foothold into the earth, from where they could control the weather, seasons, and rain cycles. Another ancient science, alchemy, deals with the ability to change base metals into gold, which was then used to build palaces, temples, and places of worship. A more practical aspect of alchemy can be viewed as disporting inorganic chemistry to work as empirical magic. We often think of the ground as just a place to walk on, but it is so much more than that. It contains the biological, chemical, mineral, and crystalline life forms that structure our entire ecosystem. The third dimension is the realm of linear space and time, and is the place where the physical and non-physical dimensions intersect. The realms of the first dimension through the third dimension are measurable, while the realms of the fourth dimension and beyond are subtle frequencies existing within the third dimension. They are non-linear and non-physical, but sometimes they seem more real than some things that exist in the third dimension. For example, sometimes you will walk into a room where two people are fighting, and you will instantly feel a rush of intense emotional energy that frightens you and sends you back to where you came. This emotional energy feels very palpable. In some cases, a person will throw an insult at you, and you feel like you've been struck by a blow to the stomach. That person didn't really hit you, but it felt like it because of the acting subtle frequencies that are non-physical but exist within space and time. Time is just an instrument we use to accomplish certain tasks. One might realize the past is just a databank of information which can be tapped into at any time to the extent of grounding oneself into the present moment. The present moment being a platform that one can then spring forward into a future possibility. The science of the third dimension is Newtonian physics, which becomes obsolete in the higher dimension. One of Newton's laws, however, holds the key to everything. This law states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And you will see how this law is the premise for everything as we dive further into this book. In effect, the third dimension is just a space where the material and spiritual realms can become accustomed to one another. The fourth dimension is the realm of the collective mind of humanity. It is the thoughts and emotions that run our society day in and day out. The entire history of humankind on this planet is contained within the fourth dimension. All thoughts and feelings are vibrational codes embedded within the fabric of the fourth dimension, where they remain in eternity, because there is no time in the fourth dimension. When you dream, you are allowing your subconscious and superconscious minds to communicate with one another in a symbolic fashion in a timeless realm. Dreams aren't random, they are messages. Telepathy, channeling, and mind control are practices utilizing the secrets of the fourth dimension to control and manipulate people into killing themselves, others, and the environment. The gods of antiquity are not really gods. They are just fourth dimensional archetypes which manifest themselves in the third dimension using conduits. These conduits can be political leaders, religious leaders, or just some demented kid who shoots up a school. These archetypes are just ideas and thought, but they could also be aliens who visited Earth in the past. When messages from higher intelligence reach the canopy of the fourth dimension, they split into two polarities, those being light and dark. You could say that they are good plans and evil plans, but good and evil are just paradigms based on the principles of light and dark. The electromagnetic fields that travel through the fourth dimension meet the second dimensional magnetic fields rising out from the Earth in the third dimension, where physical realities are established. When poets write or musicians compose music, They anchor in higher dimensional thought forms and use them as ideas to create. When someone assassinates a famous politician or activist, they are usually unaware of the fact they are enacting someone else's thoughts and impulses. The science of the fourth dimension is quantum mechanics, which deals with the properties of light. Light can be viewed as a particle or a wave, depending on the point of observation. In ultimate reality, it is both, and the means by which it manifests in physical reality is through consciousness. The fifth dimension is the realm of light, which is centered in the heart chakra of the planet. As the heart chakra of each individual person centers the 7 chakra system, so the heart is the center of the earth chakra system. The earth is now passing through the photon belt, radiating out from the center of the galaxy. The result is that it is transmuting the atmosphere. Photons are particles of light vibrating to the full spectrum of electromagnetic radiation. They usually range from low frequency waves to gamma rays. Gamma rays hold much more energy than low frequency rays, so the effect of the earth passing through the photon belt is an expansion of consciousness. Gamma ray bursts cause humans to be conscious in 9 dimensions simultaneously. 225 million years ago, the Earth was in a similar position it is now, when it was picked to be a laboratory for biological life forms. Those forms, after evolution, mutation, and recombination, then in turn being able to seed the rest of the galaxy. We are now reaching the end of a cycle, and on December 21st, 2012, this culmination of biology will be disseminated into the Milky Way as the planet makes its transition into the 5th dimension. The 5th dimension is centered in the heart. In the 4th dimension, light appears as either a particle or a wave, but in the 5th dimension, it appears as both simultaneously. The science of the 5th dimension is creativity, which is the checkpoint for all creations manifesting in multiple dimensions synchronously. The 6th dimension is the realm of geometric forms that hold buildings and people together in the 3rd dimension. It is the home of our spirit bodies, the vehicles which allow us to measure the vibrational patterns of the 4-body system. Long ago, ancient civilizations found that buildings lasted longer when they were reflective of sacred 6th-dimensional geometries. Why do you think that structures like the Great Pyramids, the Sphinx, and the Greek Acropolis last for thousands of years? It is because those structures were built with powerful energies of the 6th dimension, energies which clairvoyantly gifted people can see. Objects last longer when they are venerated by people. The 6th dimension is analogous to Plato's theory of forms. Everything you see in the 3rd dimension is a copy of a perfect paradigm in the 6th dimension. In the 3rd dimension, cows are just animals that eat grass and produce milk. But in the 6th dimension, a cow is a geometric pattern contained within a vibrating morphogenetic field. Most of our bodies are actually empty space. So why do we appear so solid? It is because our individual morphogenetic fields hold our form together through the vibration of our 4 bodies. Scientists today are discovering that when they beam into a frog embryo the morphogenetic field information of a salamander is created. This might sound like fantasy, but it isn't. A cow looks like a cow because its morphogenetic field generates that image at all times. Otherwise, the cow would look like something totally different and change its appearance every day. The science of the 6th dimension is the 5 platonic solids. These are the tetrahedron, hexahedron, octahedron, dodecahedron, and isohedron. The universe is structured in a logical way according to these archetypical patterns, which influence structure in the material realm. If it wasn't for geometry of the 6th dimension, everything would be chaotic. The 7th dimension is the realm of cosmic sound that generates the 6th dimensional geometric forms by vibrational resonance. As planets spin on their axes and revolve around solar bodies, they create sound, the music of the universe. Within the photon bands in the galaxy, 8-dimensional waves of light create 7-dimensional or 7th-dimensional sound waves, whose unique vibrational tendencies structure geometric patterns. Just as everything in the 3rd dimension is held together by geometric forms in the 6th dimension, geometric patterns in the 6th dimension are held together by sound patterns in the 7th dimension. The science of the 7th dimension is music. Octaves are sequences of 8 notes and are grouped together into sound vibration. Each octave is a scale of notes that appears henceforth: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Each subsequent higher octave is a doubling of the hertz pulses per second of the one below it. So lower A is 220 hertz and middle A is 440 hertz. The vibration of air molecules creates sound, which then creates solidity. Semantics is the study of this process. The 8th dimension is the realm of the mind of Prime Creator. This realm is light. As vibrational frequencies rise, they go from lower audible deep hums to higher audible high-pitched sounds to inaudible. The inaudible range and above is where the visible spectrum of light exists. When we look at a color, we are seeing a frequency that is vibrating at millions of pulses per second. When the Earth moves into the 5th dimension, light will take on a whole new meaning as new colors will be discovered, colors which exist above the spectrum of the rainbow. The 9th dimension is the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. All black holes are stars that have imploded upon themselves and collapsed into a singularity. This condensing of an immense energy field into a single point creates an event horizon which surrounds the singularity in a spherical fashion. Light and anything that reaches this horizon gets sucked into the black hole and reemerges from a white hole in a brand new universe. In essence, the black holes in the center of each galaxy are portals into no-time zones where creation happens. The 9th dimension is a vertical axis that extends above and below the plane of the galaxy. And the black hole at the center is a spinning gravitational nucleus which manifests itself in time waves. These waves of created time influence events in the galaxy like storylines in a book. The galactic center is constantly receiving 9th dimensional synchronization beams from other galaxies, which elicits events in this galaxy. On August 16, 1987, our galaxy received a synchronization beam, causing the cycle of the harmonic convergence to extend into the year 2012, when all of our crown chakras will be activated and we will awaken to the higher dimensions. When the Milky Way received this beam, its liquid darkness essence pulsated, forcing photon bands to become nuclear clearing zones for the whole galaxy. Every star and planetary system in the galaxy sooner or later undergoes this 9th dimensional galactic pulsation by means of the 7th dimensional photon bands. This is all orchestrated by 8-dimensional galactic sound tones. The 9th dimensional galactic center is a state of eternal bliss where no time exists. This is where manifestations of the galactic center of consciousness take form and create galactic systems based on the flux and flow of matter. In ultimate reality, time does not move. Matter moves, creating the illusion of time. The 10th dimension is the vertical axis that aligns the other 9 dimensions into a single gravitational point, the iron core crystal at the center of Earth. When one's consciousness is simultaneously aware in all 9 dimensions equally, it is in the 10th dimension. The 11th dimension is the all-encompassing energy field that manifests and contains the other 10 dimensions. This is the first realm of universal consciousness. The 12th dimension is the great central sun of our universe, and it is the source from which all the galaxies in our universe emanate and around which they all revolve. In religious texts, it is the universal logos, the first word of God. But we know that thought comes first. The 13th dimension is the gateway to the universe beyond our own universe and is the center of divine emanation, the first thought, so to speak. This dimensional model works in even and odd numbering, at least for the first 9 dimensions. The odd numbered dimensions have a more intuitive and emotional composition, feminine, and the even numbered dimensions have a more analytical and intellectual, masculine, flair. Also, the even numbered dimensions of the alchemical tree of life create structural laws for the galaxy, and the odd numbered dimensions live out those laws by exploring free will. Here is an illustration of the Palladian model for the structure of the primary 9 dimensions. Notice how they are split down the middle by the vertical axis of the 10th dimension into even and odd dimensions residing on opposite sides. All the universes are structured according to wavelength, so it should be no surprise this chart looks like a sine wave. The Anunnaki, Orion, and Sirius extraterrestrials are more masculine in nature, 4th, 6th, and 8th dimensions respectively, while the Palladians, Arcturians, and Andromedans, 5th, and 7th dimensions respectively, are more feminine in nature. If one were to envision this dimensional model from the perspectives of the 3rd dimension, this picture would illustrate it nicely. Model of manifestation of 9 dimensions. The center chakra of the earth is your grounding point while you lay on a table in 3-dimensional time and space. The 4th dimension is like a canopy, collective mind, hanging over you. This dimension encompasses the other 3 dimensions and provides an interface for the higher dimensions. From a big picture standpoint, light is information. The higher the frequency of light, the more information it can hold. Information is pure consciousness. The frequency of creation is love. Love sustains this information in perpetual suspension. In ultimate reality, the past, present, and future exist simultaneously in the highest dimension of the mind of Prime Creator. But in a lower density, like 3rd density, time appears linear. If someone were to go back in time, they could change the future. But when they did this, they would create a separate fabric of time-space extending out from the original timeline into a parallel timeline. Our reality, ranging from the most distant galaxy to subatomic particles, is what we constitute as our universe, even though all the universes that have ever been created are right here in this space and are all interlinked. You can't see or experience them because they are all operating on different wavelengths. In quantum physics, every object can either be looked upon as particles, atoms, or sounds, wavelength. And every particle or piece of matter has its own sine wave signature. If you look at all the viewable objects, those which reflect light in this universe, and average them by the wavelength, you will find that this average is 7.23 centimeters. Dimensions are separated from each other by wavelength, exactly the same way notes are separated on a musical scale. There is a void between dimensions like the void between 2 notes on a piano, and there is a greater void between octaves. Each dimension is also separated from the others by a 90-degree rotation. In a sense, if you could change your wavelength, vibration, and rotate 90 degrees, you would disappear from this dimension and reappear in whatever dimension you were tuned to. The key to understanding how to move from one dimensional level to another starts with locating and merging with an electromagnetic field around your body shaped like a star tetrahedron. There is a tube which runs through the body and connects the apexes of this star tetrahedral field. And this tube is essentially the funnel of energy that connects your 7 primary chakras. As we have a physical body, an emotional body, an intellectual body, and a spiritual body, each has its own tetrahedral shape, and each higher body in frequency is superimposed onto the lower bodies. The word mer denotes counter-rotating fields of light. Ka means spirit, and ba is body, or reality. Essentially, the Merkaba is a counter-rotating field of light encompassing both spirit and body. It is a time-space vehicle which transports one mind, body, spirit to higher planes of consciousness, or in other words, other dimensions of reality. One can align all aspects of oneself, those beings, spirit, consciousness, mind, attention and intention, and body, cellular and intelligence, and activate the Merkab vehicle. I repeat, one can align all aspects of oneself, those being the spirit, consciousness, mind, your attention and intention, and body, cellular intelligence, and activate the Merkaba vehicle. Everything seems so solid, yet it is only a 3-dimensional hologram. Our brain decodes energy fields, packets of waves of energy and information into touch, sight, taste, smell, and sound from electrical impulses sent to the brain by every nerve in the body. If you could see the world as it truly is, you would see that it's mostly empty space. It is the process of 3rd-dimensional perception that entraps one into experiencing a solid physical experience. In the higher dimensions, however, the outside world is only energy, and consciousness shapes energy into reality. You can go to the store and buy a hologram machine and see for yourself how this concept applies. The device works by directing 2 parts of the same laser onto photographic film. One part, called the reference beam, is directed at the film through a semi-transparent mirror, while the other half, called the working beam, is deflected away to strike the object you wish to be holographically photographed. The working beam is then directed back onto the photographic film, where it collides with the reference beam. This creates an interference pattern on the film, and hence the object is reconstructed in perfect 3-dimensional holographic form. It looks totally real, but you can put your hand through it. This process is depicted in the following figure. Diagram of a hologram machine. The physical world seems solid because our senses hem us into the 3rd-dimensional world. The body is an electrochemical computer, and when we operate from the level of our body computer, we lose touch with infinite awareness and other dimensions of consciousness. If we could see the world before our brains decode the information, electrical, chemical, magnetic, and spiritual information, it would be a sea of wave patterns vibrating at different frequencies and clashing with each other. If you were to open up a television set, you would not see the pictures you see on the screen. Rather, you would see electrical circuit boards. The circuit boards convert electromagnetic information into pictures, sounds, and landscapes, and that is projected onto the screen. The world you see is not outside of you. Rather, it is a squirrel that is staring at me. Rather, it is your central processing unit, your brain, covering raw data and waveforms into holographic reality in your head, imprinted onto your visual cortex. This world you experience happens inside of you, not outside. Moreover, every partition of a projected hologram, whether it be your body, an object, or the visible universe, is a microscopic version of the whole. Every piece mirrors the whole hologram. If you're dealing with the hologram pictured above, the dice, and you cut the interference patterns into 4 pieces and point the laser at each one, you will not see 4 different pieces of the dice. You will see quarter-sized depictions of the whole image. The body is the same. Each cell is a smaller version of the whole body, which is why a body can be grown from a single cell. Palm reading and acupuncture work because of this principle. Every part of the body is a representation of the whole. DNA is a crystalline substance with a shape that makes it a perfect receiver, transmitter. It receives, transmits, and amplifies frequencies of light that connect to the cosmic internet, the broadcast of creation. Earth is nothing more than a complex computer program our body computers are wired to. Each cell is a part of the body's hard drive, the official memory source. When conditions in the environment change, the DNA mutates so the body computer can compensate for survival. When we drug our bodies with pollutants, the information processing unit, the brain, and the hard drive, the cells become corrupted. Much like a computer that has been affected with a virus program. The virus slows down the flow of information and energy, and when this happens, disease occurs. In order to stay healthy, one must keep the meridian channels, acupuncture channels, clear so the chi, prana, love, energy can flow unobstructed. One must also keep the chakras clear so that the body computer can connect to other dimensions of reality and higher frequencies of information. When fear is the prevailing paradigm, the body computer, the droplet, is shut off from infinite consciousness, the ocean. Fear constricts consciousness and love expands it. The divine matrix is a sea of consciousness which propels itself from the 13th dimension down through the 5th dimension and projects out into a 5th dimensional hologram. Earth as a 5th dimensional hologram. Ever since the advent of quantum physics, scientists have started to realize that this hologram follows very basic rules. These are, there is a field of energy, consciousness, that connects all of creation. This field plays the role of a container, a bridge, and a mirror for the beliefs within us. The field is non-local and holographic. Every part of it is connected to every other, and each piece mirrors the whole on a smaller scale. We communicate with the field through the language of emotion. When one soul awakens to the higher reality of being connected to this source of energy and awareness, a window is open to a more universal field of infinite possibilities. Yes, and as the law of one raw state connected to infinite intelligence, to source. Well, that was an information-packed chapter. Namaste, namaskaram.